For even more updates on Stephen King's It, The Dark Tower, and The Mist, be sure to check out hybridnetworkyt.com.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Hybrid Network and another Mist video, where today we're comparing and contrasting the original story and the new television series on Spike TV. While the series isn't done at the time of this video, it's about 4 episodes in, and I think that there's enough there to go through what exactly the new series does differently and what it tackles in a similar manner. So, without further ado, let's dive on in. Between the two stories, we get a similar premise. A peaceful day in a small town is disrupted by the arrival of a foreboding mist that descends on the town, carrying it with it fresh new horrors that the inhabitants must deal with, all of it being tied back to a mysterious government project known as the Arrowhead Project. The new series sticks close to this idea of people being forced to hide from the mist altogether, though there seems to be 2 different angles in the show. On one hand, the group trapped within the mall doesn't seem to be going anywhere, while Kevin and Adrian's group is actually moving about in the mist, traveling through it and moving from one place to the other. Which is an interesting angle to take it, because the original story all took place essentially in the grocery store. Anyone that traveled into the mist seemed to be killed immediately, except for David and his group of survivors. And that's actually an interesting thing about this new adaptation. We don't seem to get any characters from the original story, though we seem to get a few individuals based on them. Kevin and Eve seem to be the central characters that we follow for the most part. Not that the spotlight is directly on them, but they're both present as head figures in their groups. In the original story, David Drayton was our central character. He was a simple father trying to do right by his child, whilst trying to keep together a band of people as the mist drives them against each other. In the show, Kevin leads his own pack of survivors, while Eve stays with their daughter in the mall, both filling David's role to an extent as they take on 2 separate parts of his character. Meanwhile, Mrs. Raven definitely seems like an interesting take on the Mrs. Carmody character, whom in the original story was a hellfire priest of sorts, giving sermons on how the mist was punishment from God above for the sins of man, and how only the blood of expiation could set them free from his wrath. In the show, it seems like they're downplaying the vengeful Christian angle with the character, but she has her own strict statutes and tendencies that would seem to separate her from the rest of the inhabitants of the town. Plus, her encounter with the moth creature out in the mist seems to indicate a religious angle still taking hold of her, though it seems like she'll be going against the faith of the church that she's currently holed up in. The Arrowhead Project was always something on the outskirts of the story. It wasn't incredibly important to the tale unless you were following the connection with Stephen King's vast multiverse, and so far the project seems to be playing at a slow burn reveal type angle in the show, most likely stretched across the entirety as we learn more about the mist and just what it is that people are seeing. But possibly the biggest difference, and it's certainly noticeable judging by how many people are still talking about it, is the fact that so far the television series has had no monsters. Well, I mean, when talking about the mist, monster is a relative term anyway, but in this case the creatures in the mist itself seem to be absent from the television series altogether. Something is definitely wrong with it based on what we've been seeing happen to people who go out there, but we've yet to see any ferocious birds or hideous spider-like creatures. Episode 4 supposedly has some otherworldly creatures present within it based on reviews, but so far we've mostly seen bugs, phantoms of people crucial to characters' past, a man turned into a moth, and various gruesome scenes that indicate to some larger threat looming outside of our vision. Outside of any creatures, the mist seems to more so play with human perception with some characters, and it's unclear just what is happening to some of the people involved. Whether that's a good or bad thing mostly depends on how the show handles itself, but it's still a pretty big departure from the original story. Most likely it was done to focus more intently on the human characters, and probably for budgetary reasons. After all, it might be hard to distract us with human drama in a television series if people are waiting to see the next monster attack. We'll just have to wait and see where it goes from here. But that's gonna wrap up this video. Thank you all for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more content coming at you from the Hybrid Network. My name is Luke, and I'll catch you all next time.